Hey guys, it's Rufus, and on Cctv, rafter takes are becoming more common as it's now being recognized at how powerful they can be. And usually teams will just put one player at the top of rafters with an ADS or two and call it good. But against a team that knows how to take rafters, this defense strategy is going to be very weak. But let me explain what a rafters take would look like real quick. Once you open the Cctv wall as the attackers, you would rotate around to the garage wall and open up the garage wall. From there, you just enter the bottom, you burn the ADS on rafters, and you just frag out the rafters player or force an engagement. Once the rafters player is dead, you can just walk up the stairs, take rafters control, and execute on the site. The reason this is so powerful is that once you open the Cctv wall, it's very difficult to support the rafters player, and so there's not really a lot of control that the attackers have to take in order to go for their execute on the site. So what else can you do against this attack? Well, first, I'm going to discuss your options when holding rafters. If you know a team is going to take rafters, do not make a rafters rotate, but rather use head holes or foot holes, it's optional. This allows the rafters player to utilize the lines of sight onto rafters, but it doesn't give the attackers a rotation onto the default plant after they take rafters. And you can also fully reinforce the rafters wall to give the rafters player more versatility moving around, but this strategy is not utilized very often. However, if you're going against a team and you find that the player on rafters is struggling to survive, you can put a roamer below sight. This is very powerful for the reason that when you play around lounge, you can protect the rafters player by playing at the garage door, and if the garage wall ends up getting opened, you're able to watch them breach easily. So from this position, the attackers cannot ignore you, and if they want to take rafters, they'll be forced to deal with you first. You can also set a shield on this spot, which gives you a lot more room to move around, and it makes it much harder to push into garage, especially if the shield is being supported by a Wamai. If you're roaming, you also have the option to play an oil pit though. This lets the rafters player be passive as his teammate can actively watch the stairs and garage. This strategy is a good way to get a pick, but it's only going to work one or maybe two times in a game, since you can easily just hold a tight angle and then just run away. If the attackers decide to clear lounge and stock though, a roamer below sight may not be enough to properly counter this attacking strategy. It's not uncommon to see teams have a hold below sight, and there are a lot of variations to this which I'll get into. First, I'll show a basic hold. A basic hold of lounge would have a reinforcement on the lounge wall with the other wall opened, and this allows the lounge player or players to watch garage from another angle and makes it harder to push into garage. However, whichever wall you reinforce or open doesn't matter. You can reinforce none of the walls and you can open both of the walls. It really depends on what you want to do, but the way I just showed you is how I like to play it. However, I suggest that you play around with this because there are a lot of different ways you can experiment with this wall, and a lot of different angles that you can make too. Mira is also a great option, and I highly suggest that you use her if she's available. However, next, the lounge players will need castle barricades to eliminate lines of sight into lounge. This makes it much easier to play in lounge, and you can use normal barricades, but I suggest using castle if you want to have a set hold below sight. The doorways you want to barricade will also vary, as there are a lot of variations to this strategy, and you can actually extend into stage and have more control below sight. So you might be thinking why holding stage is important when we're trying to counter a rafters push. Well, if you're having a lounge hold and a team wants to take rafters, they're going to clear you in lounge. And so extending into stage makes it far more difficult to actually perform this roam clear below sight. When you have control of stage, you can prevent the attackers from entering both stock and the main entrance. And so this makes it much more difficult to take control below sight. It makes it much more difficult to take control of lounge, and therefore much more difficult to take control of rafters. And if you decide to extend into stage, I suggest putting one castle barricade at the secret door, another at the main entrance, and the last barricade at stage. This clears the two most important lines of sight while also protecting the stage player from bar. However, you can also place a barricade at the lounge door and a barricade at the stage door. This makes the main entrance much more difficult to push as the stage player can peek under the castle barricade. And it also reaps the benefit of forcing the attackers to use explosives if they want to open these castle barricades. Breaching charges or a sledgehammer would be too risky, and that's all I have to say about castle barricades. Now, you have a lot of options with what you want to do with the stage wall. You can open entirely, open it partially, or reinforce one side of it. Once again, it is your choice. I suggest you experiment with it, but I like to reinforce this one side and open footholds in the other side. This allows the stage player to make it practically impossible to enter stock, And you can even combine this with a mirror window or even a deployable shield to look directly into stock. And so it's quite impossible to actually enter stock without being greeted by two different guns. And so it's extremely difficult to push into this hold as the attackers have far too many angles to worry about. And so if you do decide to do this, I suggest being prepared for the attackers to switch their game plan and go for a construction side push. This problem is really only a problem in competitive Siege, but I figured I'd add this for anybody it may be useful for. If you decide to hold below sight on CCTV, be prepared for the attackers to push from construction side, whether that means utilizing some holes from below or just going for nitro picks. However, that's all I'd say for this video, and if you learned something, give the video a like, and if you want to see more content like this, then subscribe. Toodles.